As a part of my research to learn more about the world of Fable, I have been trying to collect whatever I can to get the smallest bits of lore and details so I can then pass it all over to you guys in the lore videos. While researching for the last video, I came across information about Sirens and discovered there was actually an art book that came with a companion guide for Fable 2 which had concept art for the Sirens, so I looked it up on Google and I bought it. Initially, I was just going to have the book to refer to obscure references, characters or creatures, but the more I've looked into it, I feel like I've fallen down a rabbit hole, and so I thought this would make a great video. So here I am making a video about the concept art and cut content that did not make it into the final game. This video does centre around the information in the art of Fable 2 and the research behind the scenes of the information within. So there may be other cut content I haven't mentioned, and that's because it did not feature in the book. We'll begin with the creatures. First off, we have Sirens. The Sirens were meant to be in Fable 2 and were to be an ethereal mix of mermaid and female vampire. In this art, you can view these floating creepy monsters in their element with an aurora behind them. Or maybe it's water. They are actually mentioned in Fable 2 when Hammer sings about the Sirens of Oakvale in the song, Down by the Reeds. Before viewing the concept art, I always wondered if Lionhead did consider putting them in the game, and I guess they did, but it just didn't work out. Mike McCarthy, the senior concept artist, states in the art book that they struggled to get the concept art just right and that the art was challenging, which resulted in them being cut from the game. A shame really, and I guess they would have been an impressive creature to come across. While we do not come across them in our playthrough, we know they are out there in the game somewhere. We may have actually had a slight mention of them in Fable 3. After completing the quest in Aurora to send off a boat, you find it shipwrecked in Driftwood. When checking the crew logs, the crew mentions mermaids sitting on a rock. When the ship passes the rock again later, they discover two skeletons in the place where the mermaids had once been. Could they have been Sirens, or simple evil mermaids? I've skipped multiple diary entries, but the most important one reads, Day 29. Oh, I think we have been sailing around in circles. Today we passed that rock where the mermaids were, though they are gone now. Thankfully, in their place were two skeletons. Obviously two sailors who were less cautious than we were. Could have been Sirens. On to the next creature, named the Nightmare Creature. Described by Mike McCarthy as huge-jawed and cunning, hiding in the dark underspaces of Albion, waiting for heroes to blunder into its grasp. This monstrosity is creepy as hell to look at, and likely a boss foe, like the Banshee. It looks like it had a face on each side of its body with multiple arms to help it navigate its surroundings. These also appear to be extremely sharp to impale whatever victims they get. While this creature did not make it into the game, for unknown reasons, it looks like its development process helped shape future creatures. The Nightmare Creature originally started as a large cave-dwelling creature somehow related to the Hobbs, so I guess a possible evolution of the Hob over the 500 years between Fable and Fable 2. We can see that over the development, it changed drastically to be less hobbish to more nightmarish. In this version, I can definitely see similarities to the crawler in Fable 3. It is also disgusting to look at. Again, it would have been fantastic to have more Hob varieties that were not the standard Hob. On the topic of Hobs, this terrifying concept art appears on the Hob art page. I'm not sure what it is meant to be, maybe an evolved version of the creature. It seemingly looks like a grown-up version, and that clown costume just makes me feel uncomfortable. I also absolutely hate clowns, so that might just be me. In any case, it is interesting to see the possible directions they were going in around the concept stage to see what would work and what would not in the game. This art will haunt my dreams. Although not a cut creature entirely, it looks as though there were thoughts to branch out with the types of Balverine. In this small drawing here, we can see a suggestion that there were planned to be 3 types of Balverine in Fable 2, all looking completely different to what we received. Each is distinctly different. The Black Balverine is similar to a savage wolf in comparison to the Golden Balverine, which resembles the head of a dog, with just a few alterations. The most interesting part of this is that some appear to be wearing clothing and standing in a very human fashion. I cannot make out properly what this says, but it looks like it says sorcerer. Imagine if Balverines were capable of magic. They're tough enemies on their own without the use of magic, so this would have been an interesting choice. Maybe they thought about going down the route the Hobbs did with their evolution. Fable 2 is set 500 years after Fable after all, and we do see the evolution of Balverine through the whole series, where some Balverines are capable of changing into a human form. Would a will using Balverine be that much of a stretch? It would have been interesting, but as the book does not go into any detail about it, I guess it was a passing thought. While not a monster, we can see in this pirate concept art that this guy has a monkey on his shoulder. As far as I am aware, monkeys are not mentioned in any of the Fable games, but it would have been cool to have ghost monkeys hanging around the ghost pirates in the sinkhole in Bloodstone, or even monkeys hanging around Lionhead Isle on the Captain Dread quest. It's probably nothing, but monkeys would have been great. We can see here a brief drawing of the Spire, which oddly appears to be on land instead of the ocean which we received in the finished game. With the Spire in mind, let us move on to the concept world map. On this map, we can see that the Spire appears to be called a tower, and it's on land, specifically on Witchwood Island. Maybe this was just a placeholder for where the Spire would go. Interesting regardless. Okay, so when playing through Fable 2, we get winter as a child, spring as a young adult, and autumn a little later. Here, we can see the maps for each of them. It is a shame that there are not bigger versions in the book, but they do look awesome. I would have liked to see places like Oakfield and Brightwood in the winter. Autumn was the better looking season in my opinion, and we were meant to get an autumn version of Bowerstone Cemetery, which was actually put into the game, but one of the developers accidentally selected the summer layer instead of the autumn layer in the game files for when the player leaves the Spire, and due to the game being so close to the end of development, they had to keep the summer layer on to avoid the risk of any bugs that would come from allowing the autumn layer. It's a shame, but understandable. Still, winter in the whole of Albion would have been great. Looking at the map in general, and completely aware that this is still fairly early in the stages of development, we can see a load of differences. Ravenscar is in the location that Oakfield should be, due to the ritual cave being within the vicinity. This is because Oakfield was originally called Ravenscar, but the developers believed that the name sounded too dark for the nice country region that they were building. They then reused the name Ravenscar for Ravenscar Keep in the Fable 3 DLC. While we have the Explorer's Cave and Ritual Cave, I cannot say I remember finding a third cave or tomb to explore. We can also see Sunken Cave and Sunken Tomb Cave. Maybe they were renamed, or they are the entrance and exit of the cave you enter after jumping off the bridge in Rookridge. With Rookridge in mind, we can see here that it was originally called Dunecrest. The developers later reused the name Dunecrest for a settlement in Fable: The Journey. Moving south, in Bowerstone, we can see Fountain Tomb. Not something we received in the final product, but if I had to guess, it would maybe be an alternate entrance to the secret Gargoyle Trove underneath Bowerstone Bridge. Maybe it was a fountain at one point. In Brightwood, we can see the Demon Pit Cave. While it sounds interesting, I could not find any information on it. The only interesting cave in Brightwood is Arkon's Folly, where you get the Daichi. Maybe an alternate name, or maybe a whole new cave. Further south, we have Deepwood. This is a sad tale. Deepwood within the lore of Fable still exists within the world. We just never had the chance to visit it. Deepwood was a region covered in enormous trees and giant roots around Old Kingdom ruins with massive statues and buildings. This would have been a great place to explore to learn more about the Old Kingdom. Due to a lack of potential art support, Lionhead decided to leave the region at the concept stage. All we know is that it is located between Brightwood and Wraithmarsh, and that it was referenced in Fable 3 when going through the Traitor's Keep DLC, and further mentioned in Fable Blood of Heroes, a companion book to the cancelled Fable Legends. It's a shame we didn't get it, but we did get so many great regions. I guess Statue Cave, Crane Dive Tomb, River Cave and Lake Cave all were regions to explore in this Old Kingdom region. It also makes sense why we would not have seen Deepwood in regular gameplay, as we use a Colours Gate to teleport between Brightwood and Wraithmarsh. As far as I can tell, the rest of the map looks fairly similar to the finished game. I do not recognise Lost Tomb, House of Tombs, Mirror Lake Cave or Well Cave, but they may have just been removed caves or renamed caves. Regardless, this map is incredible to look at. When scanning these pages, I also uploaded them to my Patreon so that my patrons could get an early glance of what I was researching, as well as an easy access to the images. A link is in the description if you are interested in supporting the channel in any way and seeing behind the scenes. When looking through the art for the locations, I was slightly disappointed to see that the original concept art for the Crucible was very reminiscent of the Witchwood Arena. Look at these images. Having all of the crowd right above you looking down as you fight a giant foe was one of the best parts of Fable 1. It literally looks like a classic gladiator match, fighting against an opponent, and this kind of feature was something that I believed we missed in Fable 2 and Fable 3. I'm hopeful that we will receive a huge arena to fight in Playgrounds Fable. There are petals being thrown down on the victor of a fight here, and in the image below, 2 people are fighting while 2 what appear to be Balverines are charging at them. While I did enjoy the Crucible, I always compared it to how great Witchwood Arena was, and it just did not match up. With weaponry, we can see concept art was drawn up for a shortbow. As guns were introduced, they removed the need of the old-timey weapons, and so they didn't fit into the game world anymore. These designs look great. These were drawn in early development by the weapon artist Patrick Martin. The variations of shortbow were to feature ornate lenses and weight to make them appear expensive, and we can see the good version, evil version, and those in between. While it is sad that they did not make it into the game, it is understandable as there would be no use against someone with a rifle at that time in Albion's timeline. Another concept drawn up was for the Rapier, a one-handed sword. Patrick mentions here that this was one of his favourite designs and he put a lot of effort into it, but unfortunately, it was cut from the game. We did get a great variation of melee weaponry in the game, but I am unsure on why this was not added. Although cut, a lot of the design and precise engravings were kept and reused on the Master Cutlass. Not a complete loss, but a giant shame we missed out on this one. For the next section, I wanted to look at how the characters of the world were adapted. Although slight, Theresa had various versions. There were designs to cover her eyes in a stylish way instead of the white eyes we received. We can also see that there were various colour options. Green, purple, blue and yellow seem to have been considered at one point, but the final choice were the colours she had in the original game, white and red. The biggest change I can see with the character development is Reaver. Here we can see that at one point he had long blonde hair, I guess fairly standard for a rogue character. George Sanchez Magdaleno, the senior character artist, said that it took a while to get his physical features to suit the ruthless, self-obsessed Reaver we have. While this Reaver looks badass, the Reaver we have suits the role better. Garth at one point seems to have had a sniper and a knife with long hair. Rob Conqueran, the character artist, wanted to stay away from the cliche version of what a wizard was, and so they gave him a design that made him look like he could handle himself in a fight, while also decorating the whole of his outfit with items that would tell a story instead of the standard wizard with a pointy hat cliche. Here we can see knives and scrolls to signify some sort of magical ability instead of a giant staff. With Lucien, we can see that they wanted to convey his corruption, and so in one piece, we can see him almost looking like something is taking over the left side of his face. The corruption being his desires and evil from his desperation to create a new Albion. While Rob wanted him to appear slightly undead to convey how deep his desire was, they settled on a human-looking man aged by his desire. It is also interesting to read that the evolution of Lucien through Fable 2 was done through his obsession of the Spire. Rob writes, "It's not the natural passing of time that has aged Lucien. It must have been the Spire aging him. I did think when playing the game that he had gotten old fairly quickly in comparison to Sparrow, and now it makes sense that this obsession with the Spire caused it." With Hammer, I guess the designers had a clear view for her, and so the art book does not give any insight into her development. Now, for some of my favourite pages, and these truly show the amazing vision the artist had. Just incredible. Here we can see the Hollow Men are literally filled with wisps that control them. An eerie green light within creates every action. It's just cool. The Banshees here have rows of teeth, fairly similar to the clown from It. Maybe part of their design was inspired by Pennywise in the way the mouth is constructed and the deadlight within. The Banshees we received in the final game were really well done, and I am happy with them, but these are just something else. I guess when it comes to moving concept into game, limitations affect the initial view. The Banshees here can be seen sucking out the soul of the victims. Amazing. Finally, one of the best pages, the Old Kingdom. I recently put together a video about the Shadow Court in Wraith Marsh, and these statues can be seen hanging on the walls all around the tomb. I did think that these statues were of Old Kingdom origin, but I could not find a source to confirm this. Well, 2 weeks later, here we are. This links the Shadow Court to the Old Kingdom. There can be so many theories to go with this, but this is not a theory video. Maybe one day. Again, the art and level of design here is great. I think the reason that the Old Kingdom is still interesting and fascinating up until now is because we still have only been given limited information about them, and so our mind wanders and attempts to figure out everything we can. While there are so many pieces of art for locations, weapons, creatures and characters, I did not want to showcase them all in a video. The majority of the artwork is literally concept pieces for the whole game, and so I picked out the most interesting and useful bits of information in there to show how different the game could have been if Lionhead and Microsoft went into a different direction, or had more time to develop the game. For some of you, it may be a reason to go and buy the book. This isn't sponsored, by the way. I have linked where I bought the book from in the description. For others, I could dedicate a video to the locations and concept art for the various regions we visit. I believe I have covered all of the content I could find related to the book, but I will be reading through it more and more to find additional information. These behind the scenes videos could be nice random episodes to simply put together so I have more time to gather research for upcoming videos that would be larger in size. What do you think? If you liked this video, then hit the like button, and if you really liked it, then hit that subscribe button. Also, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post a new video. YouTube doesn't seem to be sending up my videos lately. What was your favourite fact from this video? Let me know in the comments. Now hero, enjoy your day. Bye.